wicked. Thank you. Enders. Thank you, Enders. Boka is so very cute. Go, go. I'm doing good. Wicked, how are you doing? Alright. We have good news in the Warframe department, guys. Warframe. Alright, there we go.
Every year, one weekend changes everything for Warframe fans. It reveals new worlds, unexpected story drops, new frames, new weapons, new events, and it raises money for charities that, over the years, has totaled in the millions. Charities like Outward Bound, Able Gamers, Make-A-Wish, the Alzheimer's Society, Sick Kids, and many, many more. So it's not just a convention, it's a place where Tenno from all over the world get to meet clanmates, friends, developers, and of course other Tenno, but also they get to give back to those in need. And this year it turns 10 years old. So sit back, grab a beer or a coffee as we rewind some of those years. In 2016, Digital Extremes rolled the dice on the idea of a fan convention in Canada for a small-time free-to-play game, but it was a free-to-play game with a very dedicated fan base off the back of a founders program that helped launch the game. Something that Rebecca mentioned at the time for TennoCon made them very nervous. Would anyone actually show up?
Hey you're invited to TennoCon 2016.
TennoCon is a Warframe exclusive convention right here in London, Ontario, Canada, July 9th at the London Convention Centre. We can't wait to see you all at TennoCon 2016.
See you there.
And against all odds, up on 1,100 players showed up. I was one of them. I got to sign a wall at the time which had a world map on it which showed where everyone would come from. So you could sign it and tag which country you are from. That map is still in the DE studio to this very day, as you can see from this footage that Megan sent me a few days ago.
Okay, don't judge me, but I'm pretty sure Ireland's like all up in here, right? I don't know. I can't tell if I can see you or not. I see what I thought was tack. That might be Tal.
And it is kept as a reminder of...
That's very cool. That shows you that they still very much hold themselves to their fans, you know? This is like front and center.
How all of this started. But during the first TennoCon, we got our first look at The War Within, a cinematic quest that built on the emotional shock of The Second Dream, and with this, Warframe's tone continued its shift from just a basic sci-fi shooter to a full-blown space epic. We also got a look at Titania's reveal, Necros Prime, the Tigers Prime, and of course, the Galatine Prime, but the big thing to take from all of this was that TennoCon was officially born. But it wasn't until 2017 where the game's popularity would increase substantially. TennoCon 2017 dropped one of the biggest surprises in its 4-year existence, the Plains of Eidolon, Warframe's first open world. At that time, we had still been confined to ship corridors, but now all of that was about to change. No one saw it coming, especially in the convention.
Should I open it?
And it cast a lot of new eyes on Warframe. It had fishing, it had a real town with NPCs, even Konzu going for lunch, lore implications with the Unum Tower, Eidolons at night, which were our first huge bosses, and it kind of blew the roof off.
All I'm saying is Konzu goes for a lot of lunches. I might need to cut back a little.
Of the event, because no one, like I said, was expecting this kind of shift in direction. Then at the end of the convention came the shadowy teaser for Excalibur Umbra. The inferior version of Excalibur Prime, right? Except it had a scarf. Yeah, it had a scarf, which made it better. Now, I'm only saying that because I have Excalibur Prime, but they are both equal. Now, back then, they even had a YouTuber panel on stage during the TennoCon event with a young Brozyme, the only creator on that panel left creating videos or content for Warframe. So 2017 started that trend of open worlds, but 2018 continued it. It opened with a music video, however.
This song of sons and daughters,
Welcome to
who we are, making peace to build a future strong.
which was the anthem for Fortuna. We all lived together. Now, Fortuna, of course, Aurora Borealis, was set on Venus. It was another open world. It was drenched in neon lights and full of rebel cyborgs. It had K-drives, it had modular kit guns, it had robot spiders, it had another massive spider boss. This wasn't just more Warframe, it was Warframe reimagined yet again. But the future wasn't just open, it became orbital. At the end of TennoCon that year, 2018, they unveiled Railjack, a space combat mode where squads would pilot a ship, dogfight in space, and board enemy craft in real time. But we'll get to that in a little over a year. It was a while before we seen anything more about Railjack. TennoCon 2019 delivered Railjack's full reveal, Empyrean. One player would fly a ship, one would man the guns, one would repel enemies boarding the ship, there was the ship intrinsics, there was weapon upgrades for the ship, you could slingshot yourself out of the ship into Archwing form and fight enemies while in Archwing form if you wanted to as well. It all looked absolutely fantastic with the reveal. Now, of course, what we seen during that reveal and what was eventually implemented into the game was kind of polar opposites. Railjack was released in a pretty buggy state, and it was like that for quite a while, which led to a lot of negative feedback and DE owning up to mistakes and eventually turning Railjack into what we have today, which is way better, more fun than what it was on release. But at the end of TennoCon 2019 came the surreal moment. A grayscale desert, a horse, an old operator. Welcome to the first look at the TheDsIEGE paradox, and of course the Zaraman 10-0 in the backdrop, the fabled ship, how we came to be. Something that has been part of Warframe's lore from the very beginning. But that led us up to TennoCon 2020, which went full digital because of the COVID pandemic, and they pretty much crushed it. Heart of Deimos was revealed live, with players watching from a relay in-game, literally teleported into a demo, which would show off some of the enemy types. We got our third open world, crawling with infested horrors, pilotable necromechs, vaults, and of course the helmet system, where you could sacrifice Warframes to mix one of their powers into the Warframe that you wanted to add it to, which was absolutely awesome. Something that, whether you like the helmet system or not, has the potential to make some incredibly powerful and fun builds. Fun being the priority for a lot of us. Now, for years, there had been, I guess, implications of a new war, and leading up to 2021, that was pretty much the payoff. After years of teasing it, DE showed live gameplay from the new war, the new cinematic quest, where you didn't just play as a Warframe, but you could play as a Grineer soldier with Cal.
For the Queens.
You could play as the Corpus Tech, which of course Viso, long live Viso, and of course Teshin as well. So finally, we got to play as other characters, which was something the community had actually been asking for quite a while. Allow us to play as a Grineer, allow us to play as a Corpus, even if it was in a PvP kind of mixed area. But this way, we did at least get to experience momentary life of a Corpus, of a Grineer, and of course of Teshin as well, which gave us some really memorable story moments. But they also announced crossplay and cross-save.
Crossplay, cross-save definitely saved the game, I think. That brought a lot more people in.
That year's TennoCon, which would allow us to eventually, right before, it took a while before it was implemented, but would eventually allow us to play with our friends on other platforms. Now, with TennoCon 2022, it gave us a deeper look at the TheDsIEGE paradox, which of course they revealed the year before. It was a looping black and white roguelite world controlled by the Mad King Dominus Thrax, where you would play as the Drifter and ride a space horse. It would be unlike anything ever added into the game, a world where the main character wasn't, or the main playable character wasn't your Warframe, it was that Drifter. We also got a look, of course, of Warframe's next game, which was Soulframe, a fantasy MMO being led by Steve Sinclair, and basically he would pass the torch on to Rebecca, and that would lead to the new team of Rebecca, Pablo, Megan, and so on taking over Warframe, while Steve, Scott, and Jeff would shift on to developing Soulframe. Now, over the next 2 years, you would see more Soulframe reveals, and it is still in pre-alpha, and even this year, 2025, you can expect more big Soulframe reveals because it's going to have its moment in the spotlight at TennoCon as well. Now, for TennoCon 2023, they were back and bigger than ever. Warframe had officially turned 10 years old, the game, and TennoCon 23 was their first in-person event since COVID. And in the run-up to it, we heard knocking inside Deimos, a moment that I absolutely bloody loved.
Definitely need to play Soulframe again. I do love, like, I was here for some of these. How many TennoCons have I been with? 3 now? Last 3? Last 4? I think.
Throughout my 10 years of playing the game,
I remember this.
it had such fun implications. Was it Albrecht or was it Wally? Was it the Sherry Glass Bell? Something was trying to break through into Deimos. And a few days later, TennoCon would reveal its true implications. Whispers in the Wall, a quest that was a horror-flavoured quest that pitted you against the man in the wall within Albrecht's labs beneath Deimos. Complete with a new faction, the Murmur enemies, and implications that we had to go backwards in order to move forwards. We also got to see Lloyd. This led us up to the biggest reveal of TennoCon that year, which was Warframe 99, right at the end. We were going to be time traveling or dimension hopping back to Y2K with a new protagonist, Jetstream Sam, aka Arthur Nightingale, the Proto Excalibur, but we also heard another voice in one of those kind of moments in that cinematic reveal, which sounded like Mag. It was a sound effect. And we put 2 and 2 together and knew that there had to be more characters on the way as well. So it also had a 9 Inch Nails song, Into the Void, which fit fantastically to the reveal. We got the reveal for Dagath, our new Dullahan or Headless Horseman Warframe.
Love Dagath. I had to have the helmet with that covered up the hole. I think y'all know I can't stand the hole.
Grendel Prime was revealed, the heirloom collection for Frost and Mag, which of course in the end caused...
It makes me cry. I really got mad.
Controversy because of the pricing, which was changed. Cross save was confirmed, mobile Warframe was on the way, and we got another look at more Soulframe gameplay. Now, TennoCon last year, 2024, became more of a festival than anything else. It was a 2-day event. Now, this was my first in-person TennoCon since 2016, which was the very first ever TennoCon, and the difference in production level was absolutely huge. There was a meet and greet and a tent on the Friday night, as well as a VIP event, and I guess a disco as well. Then the main reveals were on the Saturday with Tenno Live. This was the biggest it has ever been, with the whole convention centre. There was over 3,000 people sitting in the audience for that dev stream at the end of Tenno Live, and compare that to the first one where the dev stream was only packed off into one little corner, and then you had like a chill out room with some beanbags. There was like a games area, whereas now,
Wow, they went from being a little area at a TennoCon place to being like the whole lone event. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Pretty awesome.
Forward to 2024, and the entire upstairs of the convention center was just one big seated area with a stage with cameras everywhere, proper kind of studio production level, almost like a TV show. And the Tenno Live didn't disappoint. It had so many reveals. Warframe 99, more gameplay of Arthur battling Infested, Scaldra. There was the Atomic Cycle, which is the motorbike. It was complete with more proto frames. There was a boy band themed liches revealed called the Technocyte Coda. Then there was the retro messaging system called the Kim system for building relationships with those proto frames. Scytho 9 Quincy, the new proto frame, was also unveiled. We got a roadmap tease for a new quest called the Lotus Eaters, and then Sevagoth Prime was also revealed, while also showing off Caliban's rework and more quality
Love that skin of Caliban.
Of life improvements on their way to the game. Which brings us up to TennoCon this year, 2025, the 10-year anniversary of the event, and just like past TennoCons, without a doubt is going to be full of big reveals and possible shifts in directions that none of us are expecting. And I know a lot of us are thinking maybe we're on our way to Tau, but it might be somewhere that's a stop off before we ever get to Tau. Or it could be something completely different, like I said, that none of us are expecting. Either way, I'm going to be there live in person, and I genuinely can't wait to be sitting in the audience and see exactly what DE are going to reveal. Now, one of the big things to take away from TennoCon over its 10-year cycle is that it has delivered and changed the tone and the direction of the game quite considerably over the years. It has revealed 3 open worlds, 6 cinematic quests, there's been 60 warframes, 1 space pirate mode, 1 musical, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions, raised for charity over the decade-long, I guess, time.
I do like that they take their event and they use it to help a cause. They don't just, it's not just all me. It's like that. They're like, let's use this moment to help.
Fan of having TennoCon. But whatever this year's reveals are, enjoy yourself. Make sure and catch it live on Twitch or on YouTube when DE themselves are streaming it. Like I said, I will be at the event, so any of you that are going to it, by all means, please feel free to come over and say hello. I don't bite. Let me know in the comment section below what you think.
Line, Irish people always bite.
the biggest reveal was at
We always bite you.
any of the past
We'll
TennoCons.
die.
For me, it's probably Plains of Eidolon, because it was such a monumental shift in direction for the game at that time, and then leading into Fortuna the following year, it put so many eyes on the game and brought in so many new Tenno. But let me know in the comment section below what your favourite reveal was at any of the past TennoCons. If this is your first TennoCon, enjoy. Have a great day, have a great week, and as always, thanks for watching.
Now we can start recording. Sorry, lock on.
Cast and cry, raise the million pylons high. All our kin were bound to fly for that far shore forlorn. Onward high, ooh, but we may tame the sky. Ooh, but we shall distant die on that far shore forlorn.
Murmur expelled. Tau
Oh, is this like the big reveal?
is in sight.
So Warframe's latest TennoCon teaser has got some serious foreshadowing. There is a blue light on a desolate looking rock, there's a dead Mag Prime, there's a wilted lotus, and there is quotes from our past from the Tenno on board the Zariman 10-0, and of course from Nata during the Ropadopalist fight. This teaser has a lot of what ifs, but it does look like Tau is in fact in sight. So let's take or try to break this teaser down, except I'm a caveman that doesn't really follow much of the lore in depth, and I've just found fire. Also, before I go any
Just found fire.
further, the Warframe songs never really miss, do they? Because the melody in this teaser is absolutely amazing.
Cast and cry, raise the million pylons high. All our kin were bound to fly for that far shore forlorn. Onward high, ooh, but we may tame the sky. Ooh, but we shall distant die on that far shore forlorn.
So, the name of the TennoCon teaser is Our History is Smoke, which is very ominous, but this is a direct quote from Nata during the Ropa-Lolist fight.
Our history is smoke, blurred by dreams, guided by ghosts. A voice, a void, lurks inside you, its purpose not yet shown. But what am I?
So we're guided by ghosts and blurred by dreams. It could mean our history is not what we thought it was. It's smoke and mirrors. It could mean that we're about to get more uncomfortable truths. Maybe darker secrets, like last time when we found out Nata was in fact a sentient.
I kind of agree with the guess that maybe Lotus is going to change into something again.
I mean, when I last spoke to Rebecca and Megan in my last interview, they did mention that Warframe is going to be taking a darker path with upcoming content. So maybe what we've thought all along is in fact a lie. Maybe about the Orokin, about our origins, about the deal we made with Wally. Maybe our past has been irrelevant or is irrelevant. We'll know more next week or next weekend once the TennoCon reveal is actually shown. And we know that the TennoCon relay is set on board a sentient Murex ship. We know that Pergasa, the sentient queen, left a hole in the sun and is still floating around the sun, so maybe she is in fact the TennoCon ship that we're going to be on for that relay. In the teaser, we also see a dead mag on the ground being covered by a blue light. The blue light could be a deeper part of the void, but it could also be a symbol for Wally. It could be an alternate timeline, and with Isleweaver, we know that there is a dead Lloyd on Scholar's Landing somewhere as well. But more than likely it is in fact a blue dwarf star from Tau, which means this again points toward Tau being the destination for the reveal at TennoCon, which means we probably won't actually get that content for another year, right? But that's what we might get a look at next weekend. It does look like this is the original Mag Prime from her Codex entry, where she was sent to Tau on board one of those ships with the Orokin soldiers. That soldier's recap does mention a dark yet blinding blue light. He then gets shot and is left to die, but Mag Prime saves him, lifts him to his feet, and both of them surge headlong into the hailstorm of death and fire that awaited them. So now we know that that Mag more than likely died and is still on that desolate looking planet, which is what we're seeing with that blue light kind of blanketing her. Then, of course, we have the ominous, wilted looking lotus flower in front of that Mag, which feels like it's been placed there for a reason, maybe to foreshadow something that's about to happen. So is something about to happen to Lotus again? Is her end in sight? Are we about to get a new major character to lead us into the next area? Or the
I don't think Lotus is gonna die though.
Zone, or I guess the next step on our journey. Maybe when we go to Tau, it's going to lead to her death, or maybe evolution into a different type of a sentient, into a pure sentient, because the sentients that have been on Tau have been there for a very long time. They would have evolved differently to the sentients that we've been fighting for a while now, and who's to say that they haven't evolved into different factions or different types, like scholars, engineers, workers, politicians, and maybe some different kind of warring sentient factions. We could be going to Tau to help them with a Murmur invasion from Wally, or a civil war with different factions. Maybe we're going to become allies with some of them evolved sentients, or maybe Wally destroyed Tau a long time ago and there's nothing waiting for us there except the Murmur and except Wally, and it is a desolate system. But again, I would...
What do I think? What are you talking about, Wicked? I don't think Wally's destroyed Tau, although I could be wrong. That's like a possibility. I think it's either destroyed system, or we're gonna get like a changed Lotus, and we're gonna be like, it's gonna be a new faction.
I would assume
It's
that's
one of
not
those
going to be
two,
the case.
in my opinion.
One thing is for sure, we're going to kill whatever is waiting for us, because we have an insatiable desire for new weapons, resources, and of course cosmetics as well. But there is one line in that song, the lyrics of that song though, that has my eyebrows raised a little bit, and it is "Raise the million pylons high." I still feel like the Unum Tower is just sitting there waiting to become relevant, and we know that in the past the sentients did kind of invade and destroy all of the other towers, and one large sentient tried to destroy the Unum Tower, but was eventually killed by Gara in the process. So that Unum Tower is still standing, and it might still be relevant. I'm kind of hoping that it gets used at some point. Now, if we are about to go and make our way to Tau, a part of me is hoping for a completely new star system with completely new missions, something...
A lot of people think it's gonna be a new system with the damage thing that all the little really strong guys on have. Basically, they all have like super damage mitigation for all the weapons that have been getting stronger. One thing that's bothering me is if that's Tau and it's ruled by sentients, why would they have left the Mag Prime frame there? Wouldn't they take it to learn about their enemies? Maybe. You're just using emotes to use emotes, okay.
That could be a complete rework of all of our mission system, so that it's maybe not as bloated with mission nodes. And there was a time a few years ago where Steve did mention that something that they were looking at was to remove a lot of the mission types from those nodes, so that there was a lot of missions that weren't being done and weren't being used, and it was stopping people progressing through the star chart. And having a new star chart on Tau might be a way for them to reduce that and have it a little bit more streamlined. But at the same time, what would they do with our existing star chart? Would you go from the existing one to the Tau one? And would it then be, I guess, an upgraded difficulty level from what we're doing right now before you go to Steel Path? Or could Tau be in fact Warframe 2 without it being called Warframe 2? Could it be a way for the developers to, I guess, refresh a lot of our systems in game and start with a bit of a blank slate, so that maybe our power scaling isn't as much, especially if you're going up against sentients, because sentients were supposed to be the answer to Warframe's power scaling, right? They were going to be able to adapt to our damage, which would mean we wouldn't be able to do as much to it, which means the power creep wouldn't be as high as it is right now. So maybe Tau will allow us to do
that feel when you one-shot sentients sometimes.
Do that. Either way, I genuinely can't wait for the reveals at 10.
I don't think that's their fault.
On Saturday week. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below as to what you think I guess the foreshadowing of that teaser is, what it's pointing towards with those TennoCon reveals. Make sure, don't miss TennoCon, right? It is the biggest, I guess, weekend of the year for Warframe. It's where we get to see what is on the cards for Warframe over the next year to 2 years in terms of upcoming content. Either way, stay awesome, have a great day, have a great week, and as always, thanks for watching.
Cast and cry, raise the million pylons high, all our kids.
This makes me sad every time I see it.
Tenno, if you are seeing this, your loop has been altered. You and I are trapped here. Soon, the murmur will crawl through the cracks and devour this world and its possibilities. Our only means of escape, our only hope to contain this horror I have created, will require a spark of energy rare in this timeline. You know what this means. Do not allow Arthur and the Hex to stop this. I realize what I am asking, but you of all people understand what is at stake. For the sake of everything before and to come, at midnight tonight, the bomb must go off.
Hail, Siege here, and today... Well, today, we finally know, not think, know the reason behind Albert Contratti's plan with 1999, how it intersects with the Origin system, and why us not complying with his wishes, while saving the Hex and all of those in Albania, may have been our one shot to end the conflict with the Indifference quickly. One that we, by preserving this area, decided against. And unfortunately, it seems like our Drifter has only just put all the pieces together. I mentioned in an earlier video that there exists...
If Ulbricht's nuke had gone off, that would be no tech rot. So no knackered Earth, no need to escape, no first ship into the void, and no Indifference.
Put all the pieces together. I mentioned in an earlier video that there exists an inherent but absolutely necessary flaw that resides within the expanse of humanity, and that, of course, extends to the Tenno and Drifter. One that has been exploited in the past. Emotions. While in many ways a vessel enabling and perhaps embodying humanity's greatest strength, it can and has always been a consistent weakness at the same time, especially when manipulated by those with true power against those without. Being offered a choice, but only the illusion of it, pandering desire in the face of necessity, knowing exactly what choice we're going to make next, because it can already see the chain reaction, the chemical precursors that signal the onset of an emotion, designed specifically to overwhelm logic and reason, accurately described, ironically enough, by the architect within the second Matrix film. And not only does this warning of sorts align with the very strict directives the Orkin prescribed when dealing with emotions while in the presence of the Void, it also echoes precisely what Entrati has always wanted and asked of the operator in return. No more and no less. And he has attempted, in his own way at least, to explain this to us in the limited amount of time it appears he's had to directly engage with the player character, instead leaving little breadcrumbs within the notes.
As I await my final crossing to the past, I ponder what role a scientist may play in so spiritual a matter as absolution. how in the alchemy of the soul, even repentance must necessarily be a calculated task. I will repair what I have broken, no more, no less. The scales must balance, and in such a monstrous penitence as this, I shall take no heed of the dust that may fall upon them on either side. The dust of petty lives. The builders of old tempered their mortar with blood to appease the most ancient of land spirits. We should have been so wise, yet it is not too late to learn. The sands fall, the circuit completes. I return to the place of the beginning. Let witless hordes bleat their disdain for every fervent plan. The deal is done, the die is cast. I end as I began.
To show what he had to do, perhaps attempting to prime the mind of the player for the kind of sacrifice that would desperately need made. This is what all of his plotting and planning was essentially leading towards. A better tomorrow. No tech rot. No Orkin. No Ballast. No Void. And I have to believe, no Albrecht. I wonder if seeing this in text, a kind of confirmation of what might have been, affects you in the same way it had and continues to affect me. Getting to know the members of the Hex and create relationships that have revealed so much about the Warframe universe, as well as just being one of the most organically feel-good facets of the game, offering so much in the way of allowing us to understand all kinds of different aspects of the current and past history of the game. It just really makes me question the very cruel spot the operator and counterpart have been put in. Even now, knowing that by making a different choice and allowing Halvania to be annihilated, literally none of the terrible of this world would occur, is still a bit hard to deal with. No tech rot, and by extension infestation, as its creation would have never come to pass because likely the circumstances for its need are never realized. There would be no Void interaction either. No Murmur or Man on the Wall, theoretically at least. And maybe most importantly, something that would likely make what I just said stick even more. No Orkin. And of course then, no Zeramin 10-0, no Void Jump, no feral adults, and gleeful singing parasital children. Chilling and horrific reality revealed during this update that we'll get into in the next video, as Isleweaver may in fact
but okay.
be the darkest addition to Warframe's story we've ever seen. And that's really saying a lot.
Oh, you're
Those
fine,
of you
Roy.
who experienced this firsthand already know exactly of what I speak. And in that regard, consider that all of it would again, in theory, have never occurred had we just let this place go, the likely epicenter of it all. It now very much makes sense why the Indifferents wanted Halvania to continue existing, as well as why grasping control of it over Albrecht was so important. It might also explain why it, or at least an aspect of it, if nothing else, feels comfortable leaving.
Wisp main stand up for no
Now that we have a
particular
slightly
reason,
better
really dirt.
understanding of the Void, it's impossible to argue that, at least at this moment,
Oh, kiddo. How long have you been hiding out here, thinking I couldn't see you?
no matter where the Tenno or Drifter are, it doesn't ever seem like they are truly outside of the Indifference's purview, aside from the obvious, that is. There is the very uncomfortable fact that if it is a kind of corrupted manifestation of Void, and everything the operators engage with is Void-related, powered,
Exclamation
or controlled,
mark bonk that ass.
then, by definition, nothing we do is outside its influence. It's likely why it continues to unnervingly visit in the places a player considers safe. It doesn't
It is disconcerting that he can show up there. I didn't know he could show up there.
care about your
Although it's weird, he never does it for me, even though I'm constantly there.
boundaries. Something it blatantly exemplifies in Isleweaver.
You want to deny me a place? Even here, in the remains of your childhood? Not very nice of you, kiddo.
As even verbiage from the Drifter in the aftermath seems to substantiate her claim to the area now.
We can do this again and again and again.
Now, will she just give it back like we did to Thrax? This, of course, would be a symbolic gesture at best, considering what we were able to do with that. And I guess she can now just take it back too whenever she
He's
wants.
been there. Boka was just too
specifically brought
ADHD to
light
notice
within
them.
the newest mission.
Oh, really?
Oh, she's banished for now. But she'll climb back up the water spout again.
While, of course, I understand the idea of Operation 8 Claw is to remove the Void's presence from Duviri, at the end of each cycle, we are made aware of the real truth of the matter. She'll just keep coming back, keep resetting. Anything we can do, well, it's not hard to consider that she can do it better. We are, at least in her eyes, analog players in a digital existence. And it is something to be considered. That for all our power, all our weapons, we may be hopelessly, perhaps even hilariously, outgunned in the end. Walzalka, for a lack of a better name, seems to imply the paradox is all that protects us, but what if that barrier at some point falls as well, or worse, is offered, perhaps in a kind of betrayal?
You, my child, the great indifference wants to take. I want to let it. I feel only the call.
In hindsight, one has to wonder, why were we even brought to Halvania in the first place? Had we never come here, his plan would have come to fruition, would it not? What purpose did we have meeting and saving the Hex and the residents of Halvania for them to just live in a time loop for the rest of their lives? Can they even die? What if any of the humans within this area decide to have a child? It would just be removed from the timeline in the very next spiral. Would they even remember? It's tough to say.
That's a dark thought. That's a very dark thought.
Death means nothing here. And if death means nothing, does life? In that regard, it is a kind of hell, isn't it? But perhaps the most scary, the most genius aspect of all of this, in my opinion, lies in the fact that the Void entity seems to be utilizing its supposed strongest enemy to do what it requires.
I have uses for deal breakers.
I've said this before, but think about it. We brought it back. We unchained it. We've helped it find its way to the Origin system, and now we've secured 1999, and I'm guessing for the vast majority of Tenno, would die to save it, thus completely preventing Entradi's original plan to eradicate the Tekrot, Void, and the Man in the Wall, not to mention the Orokin, from ever being created or gaining a foothold in the Origin system. Imagine this place without those three entities. Could be good, perhaps even great, given that their removal would also affect other lives, attitudes and behaviors of one such as Parvos Granum and his view of the world, obviously changing or perhaps even erasing the corpus in the process. Would he still hear the words of desire as he once did? Then you have the Warframes. These humans would never have been subjected to the kind of horrors we were privy to see during the Sacrifice and Jade Shadow's quest specifically. The Grineer would cease to be, or if nothing else, wouldn't be neglected purpose-bred clones and would likely be looking for a purpose outside of war. Perhaps most of all, as mentioned, it would most likely remove Albrecht and Trotty from the equation. No untimed door, no Saraglass bell, no Man on the Wall, no eternalism, just their original beliefs. Is this the spark he was speaking about? This fully corrupted system's very dark origins consumed by light all at once.
Wait, did we get Major Ruska's stuff? I don't remember.
Shining star on the path of illumination, reigniting the origin system to a different future, one without any of them. And even now, after hearing all of this, I wonder how many would still choose to keep Halvania as it is. A year that the residents just keep having to relive over and over and over and over again. Some of the Hex have already started losing track, and it really does put into question the morality of what we've done here. As it would seem, Halvania has been irrevocably changed to remove its destruction from its timeline, essentially guaranteeing that Entradi's plan is forever dead and buried. Meaning, it's too late. We're going to have to find another way, and I wonder if even that won't, in the end, go to serve the Master.
Oraxia. The scholar's pet. I heard the usurper imitating his voice. The spider is her servant now.
If it was Entradi's plan to erase all of these entities from the origin system, giving it a fresh start, if you will, what reason would exist to still go to Tau? Everything here would essentially have been given a second or maybe third, fourth, or eighth chance, depending on how many times we've already done this. And there is evidence to support the idea that this isn't the first time around through the Warframe timeline. For at least the Tenno, and more specifically us. But for those wondering how this is even possible, well, Thrax gives us a bit of information regarding how she's able to maintain control over the area.
Remember what the scholar told us. The fragmented ones tether down the strands of Pra that weave her false Duviri.
Provided the similarities in how the Drifter can alter both Duviri and Halvania, it's fair to assume that the same kind of false tether would explain the changes in history that the introduction of 1999 brought to the origin system. After all, with Entradi telling Thrax this information,
In Duviri, I woke every day to the voice of my daughter. I recoiled from this at first, feeling the sting of conscience. I could not confront, even in semblance, the woman I had abandoned. Instead, I reinvented myself as a teacher, advising the Child King of the menace beyond his borders.
he would almost assuredly know himself how this concept functions. Do you remember the old history of the Tech Rod? Or find it odd, Kylie?
Crimeros and Kaylee, sibling pioneers researching together on the threshold of the void. Yes, that could work.
In the Necklace just started jamming to, by her standards, classical music at the very same time Halvania was introduced. Changes there now affect here. More than likely through the very same strands
I
of
didn't realize
crop
she's
previously
listening to that
mentioned,
music.
and in theory
I've
at least
talked
would
to her
remove
recently,
these
too.
elements from the origin system. So with that in mind, why leave the system if it would be, in theory at least, born anew? Did Entradi perhaps learn something in a previous loop? Something that made him completely reverse his original plans in this loop, now both desiring to save it and do it by creating bonds of friendship between the Hex and his chosen operator's Paradox, apparently tying him here in some way. And even then, why scrap an entire system your own family and loved ones still exist in to this very day, at least as we understand it? Unless, of course, there's another reason this Entradi without scars, hours after getting the shit kicked out of him, would want to go. If the Void has already got Halvania locked down, as well as now Duviri, and in turn the origin system for the most part, why not keep going? Which brings me to the real question I have for all of you. Knowing all of this, do you still want to go to Tau? Do you still
that
want...
is kind of scary. Boyd constantly wants to go further and further. And now we're going to Tau.
to potentially subject whatever's out there to it? Evidence is very much mounting that seems to imply the indifference eats emotions, or if nothing else, consumes them in some way. Literally, even referring to it as the glory. Verbiage Yanis Vor now conveniently inserts into his dialogue as well during the updated fight. So, in generating these emotions, happiness when we are dating a new Hex member, sadness when we break up with one, are we acting kind of like a battery? After all, this same passage does allude to the fact that the glory that they speak about resides in the operator as well. This most likely future where perhaps we don't win, or didn't at least that time around. Do you think Entradi is becoming impatient with us? Strangely enough, Scholar's Landing wasn't originally alluded to have been taken by the Void.
The time would come, the stranger said, when Duviri would be needed. There was a work of repentance to be done, and he could not do it alone. What he meant by this, I cannot say, and cannot now ask. For Scholar's Landing vanished overnight.
Rather that he had something to do with its disappearance. And I find it so odd that firstly, the Void now controls it, but even more so, that if he isn't trapped by the indifference in some way, out on his own, still trying to confound the Void, even with us kind of messing it all up, I originally believed he'd have had some involvement in Isleweaver, but aside from the stories about him, Entradi is seemingly nowhere to be found, with the only seemingly good news of this update being that he was able to hide the secret of the severed finger somewhere here.
This is where he stowed it away. The secret of my lost flesh. Not lost. Stolen.
That has yet to find. With this dangling faux finger, potentially even a kind of bait or lure.
Is this good or bad?
It's tough to say. But if this was the real one, I would assume she could just take it back. So, given that thought, I have to believe that this is not the actual finger. So, where is he? Where is it? And if he isn't with the indifference, as I think we all want to believe, will we even see him again? Or will he be forced to choose another? How far off course can his chosen operator veer before another path needs to be made? And perhaps the more important question is, whose side are we even on? Recent events have put countless allies into question, giving their own levels of association with the Void, and it seems the shell game to learn the truth with each of them marches on unabated. Who's really themselves, and are they always that way? Especially when they're giving us information. With every interaction amongst these people, I believe we should be considering this fact. But with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed today's video and it got you thinking about what we've done and what we might still be inadvertently doing. Helping the entity.
Very interesting thought process. Trying to think about it. Yes, we have our parts of the indifferent. Where we go, technically, it can get to. Trying to stop it. All wants to take the younger operator. Everything's pointing at going to town not being a very good idea. What I'm realizing. Everything's pointing at going to town maybe not being the smartest decision.
We are being told to counter. For some, I'm guessing this is good news, but I wonder what happens to heralds once the master finally returns. Do they retain any level of self? Or become just another brick in the wall? And if so, what then? At any rate, I hope you all have a wonderful day today, a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll talk at you all in the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye.
pretty scary to think about.
Argue that at least at this moment.
Oh, kiddo. How long have you been hiding out here, thinking I couldn't see you?
No matter where the Tenno or Drifter are, it doesn't ever seem like they are truly outside of the Indifference's purview. Aside from the obvious, that is.
Hey, kiddo.
There is the very uncomfortable
Get anywhere far. Then there's
the Void's presence from Duviri. At the end of each cycle, we are made aware of the real truth of the matter. She'll just keep coming back, keep resetting. Anything we can do, well, it's not hard to consider that she can do it better. We are, at least in her eyes, analog players in a digital existence. And it is something to be considered. That for all our power, all our weapons, we may be hopelessly, perhaps even hilariously, outgunned in the end.
No, I'm still like reacting to it. I'm still trying to decide what I feel about this. One of the things I'm thinking about is, what does this mean for Tao? Like, how does Tao, like, play into this? The bomb didn't go off, we didn't eliminate, those people. But, like, here's my thought, and what Entrati probably didn't even think about, or maybe they didn't, they intentionally did it. If all of that doesn't happen, what need is there for a Tenno? So the Tenno wouldn't be there to stop that event. I don't think that event was ever meant to. I don't think the Tenno was meant to. I don't think that atomic bomb was meant to go off. I think Entrati doesn't even realize it, but they're going right into exactly the same loop. Them going back was expected. Because the thing about, like, time travel that a lot of movies have actually established is you can't go back and stop something from happening that would stop you from going back to stop it. Because there would be no reason for you to go back and stop it. You'd never get the drive to do it in the first place. Because time is like kind of like a loop. If this part happens, this part has to happen, kind of thing. Like a circle. If this part disappears, the loop's broken, it would disappear. So it wouldn't actually happen at all. So it would like break the time. Like there'd be no holding on either side and it'd break. So I don't think Entrati realizes what he's doing.
Boka wants some tea?
I'm thinking about it, and if the atomic bomb goes off and erases the tech rot, which erases the infected, which erases the wars and stuff, it erases the warframes, both sides don't connect anymore. So it would snap the timeline. They wouldn't be connected anymore. Or there'd be no reason for you to go back in time, stop to create this atomic bomb. Let this atomic bomb go off, which would mean that it wouldn't go off, which would mean that it would happen. Like, the timeline would fix itself immediately. It would go, it'd either break the timeline and shatter it, or the timeline would fix itself. It'd create another event that would do the exact same thing. That's what I gathered from this. Like, I don't think they're noticing it, the person that's writing this. But, like, if you think about it in Entrati's way, and he supposedly created this event to happen, that like this atomic bomb needs to go off to erase these things. What's the reason to go to Tao? Because you creating this event already erases everything. But the way timelines work and stuff, it would either snap the timeline, creating no reason to ever do either, which would in like fact like either completely break the timeline, cause like a big catastrophe, or time would try to fix it.
This is why you do not mess with time.
But what I'm saying is, if it either it breaks the timeline and snaps it completely, or time fixes itself, creates a new event that causes them both to meld back together. So they just have a different event that causes the event.
Walzalka, for a lack of a better name, seems to imply the paradox is all that protects us, but what if that barrier is...
I think we will find a way to stop them, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna have to be in Tau. I don't think it's a good idea that we're going to Tau, but I also think the only way to stop it's probably in Tau. Because this feels like a fool's errand. Something that either will never work or can never work.
That would have to depend on how time travel works in Warframe. Is it linear time or branching time?
But we already got an explanation to that as well. From literally, like, hilariously from Marvel. If it's a branching timeline, and then, like, it creates all these good timelines and stuff, there's still that timeline where it happened, where you change the event. It shatters it. That timeline no longer exists. So there's no reason to start that event. And what he said about, like, placing it back where it was, where it never happened. It's an end goal, but it's also, like, yeah, it's definitely an end goal. But for what purpose is it an end goal, is the question. It definitely feels like this whole Hollovania quest line was kind of Entrati not realizing that that was a fool's errand. That, or trying desperately to do that before having to go to Tau, maybe. Or that wasn't even Entrati, that was the indifference trying to trick them. Trying to trick us. And maybe succeeding, because we decided to stay and save them. We won't really know until we get to Tau, like, how this fully plays into everything. But I definitely see a lot of the different events and stuff and how they play into it. And then, like, you're constantly answering this question. That's why I've been trying to keep my character neutral as possible. Because I feel like showing emotions gives it more power. Maybe it's how you interpret it. The Orcan saw it as an ephemer. Maybe Entrati is trying to turn it into something other than a colony world. That, or maybe there's an answer that deals with the wall guy. But I definitely see what they're saying. Definitely see it. Definitely. This was, TheDsIEGE. They always have the good lore drop videos.
The theory I have is that rift that Ballas tried to open to get to Tau has something to do with it. The indifference somehow became connected to Tau after New War.
And now it wants into Tau. Maybe, I don't know. There's definitely different, like, interpretations. You won't really fully know until we get there.